Hey y'all, everybody's favorite bumpkin here. Well, Project Moonlight here. Yeah, he's kind of living up to his name because right now when I'm recording this, it's about no knocking on the door about 1 o'clock in the morning. So please keep in mind I got neighbors around me and I got to keep them from getting mad. Anyway, let me explain why we are working on this thing at such an ungodly hour of the night. Today is Sunday, and it is basically my only day off throughout the week because Mondays are the days I usually do my running around, adult stuff I generally don't want to do, but I got to because, yeah, adulting. Normally, that's when I get most of my filming and most of my video work done for you fine folks out here that's, taking the time to grace us with your presence here at Joe the Mountain Jedi channel. Let me explain why we are here right now. We had a water leak inside the wall of our kitchen here at the hacienda. And this didn't appear to be anything big at first. But what we didn't know is what we didn't know, and unfortunately, walls in houses aren't clear, and I don't have x-ray vision. So anyway, long story short, me and Petty Officer Squid Boy, we pulled the kitchen cabinets out of our kitchen today, and that's when all hell broke loose. I found out that I have a science project slash biological warfare experiment going on that is living and growing and creeping throughout the walls of my kitchen into my home. So needless to say, this was kind of a problem for me, and it's a bit of an emergent one. Now, I don't make light of this, okay? Granted, water damage is the worst thing that you can ever experience in your home, and we have found that out many times over, dealing with storms and things like that here on the Florida Gulf Coast. However, when it's something like this, when you've got something alive creeping through the walls of your house, that's just, oh, God. I mean, that gives you that puts you in a full body shiver, man. I mean, it gives you the heebie-jeebies like no tomorrow. And also the fact that the beloved wife unit is badly allergic to mold. So, yeah, I want to give a big shout out to my son because he helped my ass out today big time. We pretty much had to gut our kitchen today to ascertain the extent of the damage, and we still got a little bit left to go before we're down to the nitty gritty on it. We got a plan in place, and we're going to be moving forward. So, guess what? I get to in what little free time I do have, I get to play Bob the Builder. Sorry, baby, I love you. I'm not wearing one of them goofy ass plaid shirts and a yellow hard hat. No, I can't cosplay as Bob the Builder. Can we fix it? Fuck yeah, we can. Anyway, we're not here to listen to me bitch and moan about the stuff that I got growing in my kitchen right now and all the crap that we're going to have to do to fix it. Let's do some shovel shit. Okay, now the last time you see, what the hell? Okay, that was odd. All right, the last time you guys saw this bike, we had a wee bit of a fire issue because the wiring went poof. It released the mystical blue smoke, and that's not run-of-the-mill ordinary blue smoke. That blue smoke is ethereal. That is the living essence of any and all electronic components, and whenever it is exposed to the atmosphere that sustains life on this little mudball called Earth that we all inhabit, that is its symbol. That is its sign that it has done its time here and it is ready to move on. It has transcended from this plane of existence onto the next and crossed the Rainbow Bridge, and it waits for us patiently on the other side. Now that the shop's had time to air out a little bit and it doesn't smell like somebody put a Tickle Me Elmo doll in the microwave and pushed high, don't ask me how I know that information, okay? There's a statute of limitations on that and it's not expired yet. Anyway, a little easier to breathe out in the shop right now because it don't stink. What I did earlier in the week, I came out here, all the electrics on this bike, with the exception of the hand controls themselves, all that's gone. We did a full-blown slash and burn. We peeled everything off, cut out all the bad stuff and cut out all the sketchy stuff and the stuff that just made me scratch my head and go, what in the hell were they thinking when they did that? So yeah, that's all gone. It's cohabitating over in a cardboard box right now over in the corner. I'm hoping that the $1.12 that it's probably going to bring in scrap value at the recycler yard, we can put that back towards the rebuild the kitchen fund. So yeah. So we got to get this thing down to a bare naked roller. Eventually we're going to take it down to a bare naked chassis because we got some pretty up stuff we got to do, and we got some upgrade stuff that we're going to do. I'm going to go over a couple of things with you guys today that's somewhat kind of universal across the board for most any Harley big twin, but it's particularly applicable to shovelhead, panhead, early Evo, because they're all more or less the same in the bottom end. Now, I know a lot of you guys out there that say, wait a minute, panheads have got a 10 primary. Yes, they do, but the insides of that 10 primary is going to be pretty much the same as what you're going to see on the old shovelhead here. So pay attention, guys. Hey, can you see me? Maybe? Good? Okay, awesome. We're going to try to avoid talking hand time, but yeah. Here it is. We got to strip all the drivetrain out of the bike. We got to start by taking the primary out of it. I've already got the primary cover off of this because I just wanted to take a quick peek and see where I was starting from. Now we got to gut the sucker. That way we can get the inner primary out of it, and we can get ready to pull our motor and our transmission out of the chassis, and that way we can set them on stands over on the workbench. All right, now as we go about tearing the primary out of this thing, there's a couple of specialty tools that unfortunately, yeah, you're going to have. But don't worry, you ain't got to mortgage a kidney or any other pluralized body part or one of your, small, adorable offspring to be able to afford these. I dug around, did a little bit of window shopping per se with Buddy Bezos, and I come up with some stuff that's fairly cost effective for the average do-it-yourself at home kind of guy, kind of like me. Now the thing is, I've got all this stuff already, but I've got it at work, which is 30 plus miles away in one direction. And I really didn't want to have to haul that stuff back and forth from the shop to the house and from the house to the shop, back and forth every time I needed to work on something here at the house. So what I did is I do what I normally do. I went out and I scavenged the internet to find the absolute cheapest shit that I could get my hands on that will still get the job done, okay? Keep that in mind. I'm going to have links for all of this stuff down in the description of this video, along with, what they're used for and what year ranges they're going to be used for, okay? So you don't have to have all of these, but there are a couple of these that are absolutely essential to being able to do any kind of drivetrain or primary service on any Harley big twin, okay? Pay attention, guys. Oh, and real quick, before we jump into the meat and taters here, it's no coincidence that I'm wearing one of my sexy-ass Ride Factory t-shirts because, number one, they're comfy. Number two, that just happened to be the first thing that I grabbed this morning on my day off. But also, I want to remind you guys, by hook or crook, we got nominated to be one of the contenders for the 2025 Best of the Tampa Bay. So please, by all means, if you guys want to help rock the vote and help give us a little nudge in that direction, I'll have you a link down here at the bottom. Basically, the voting does not open until Tuesday night. Yeah, Tuesday night is when the voting starts, okay? There's not any categories available to view yet. I'm assuming that all of that stuff is going to be listed whenever they open it up for voting. But you need to be looking in the automotive and repair categories because that's where we are, and they have us listed as a motorcycle dealer, which we're not. But, odd man out, that's just where we wound up at, okay? So I would greatly appreciate it, and I know everybody at the Ride Factory, Brian, Melissa, Angel, Drew, hey, we'd all appreciate it if you guys take a minute, go over there, show them a little bit of love on that, okay? It's one of them cool things. So let's open this sucker up and see where we stand. Now, normally whenever you're pulling the clutch out of a shovel or any big twin per se from 1936 on forward that uses this style of clutch shell, normally you don't have to pull your spring retainer plate and the clutch springs to be able to disassemble the clutch. What you can do is you can go to whatever big box hardware store of your choosing, and you can get a pair of big diameter fender washers for a 3/8 bolt and get one normal flat washer. And what you do is you take your fender washers, you take your adjuster nut off, you slip your fender washers on along with your normal washer, and then you put your adjuster nut back in place, and you use that to compress the clutch springs. That way it holds all the springs in place around the pressure plate, but you don't have to remove all them. Now, somebody has obviously been here before because this bike has a 5-stud inner clutch hub as opposed to the standard 3-finger hub that they normally came with. And a 5-finger hub is typically in my opinion at least, a worthwhile upgrade just because it allows the clutch plate to lift more evenly, and you're also spreading your adjustment out over a larger area more evenly instead of having 2 nuts over here and 1 nut over here that's controlling all your clutch spring pressure. Later on down the road, as we go back together with this thing, we may swap this stamped sheet metal spring retainer plate out for one of the billet pressure plates, and along with the pressure plate itself. Those are a very worthwhile upgrade in my opinion, and they're pretty cheap too. I mean, usually you can pick one up for 30-ish bucks, something like that. There's a couple of other upgrades that I like to do on the old 4-speed, big shell clutches like this, and I'll point them out as we go. That way you can see what I'm talking about. Now, you notice how it had that little pop right there. That's because somebody has put aftermarket clutch springs in this thing. Normally, stock springs will not hardly pop, but this one did. So that's telling me that these clutch springs are a little bit longer than what the stockers are, or somebody may have slipped an extra clutch plate in here, i.e. an extra friction and an extra steel, which is a very common mod to do as well. But I wanted to take all these off. That way I can look at its innards and see what other stuff may or may not have been done at some point in time in the past on this thing. So there's that. Oh yeah, I'm already seeing non-stock stuff here. These are Kevlar clutch plates. Looking at them, I'd say they're probably BDL. They may be from Drag Specialties, but I believe that Drag Specialties sells the BDL clutch plates under their house name as a contract deal. We've got 1, 2, and we got steel plates in here that have, this clutch is brand new. This thing has never been run with this clutch in there at all, period. Because these steel plates have no burnishing on them whatsoever. I mean, these things have not been bedded in. They've been sitting there for however many long years, but they ain't never been run. So that's a plus in my book. It may be old, but at least it's fresh. Dadgummit, I forgot how to count. Well, I didn't forget how, I just forgot to, period. All right, so we got all that. We got our 5-finger hat in there. That clutch hub nut looks suspiciously new. I mean, like brand-ass new. Somebody has put a 5-finger hat in this thing. It's still the old shell, but they put a new clutch, a 5-finger hat in here, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 friction plates in here. So I got to look at a book and see what year they went to 5 plates on the friction discs. I know on the early models they had 4, and you could slip an extra friction and steel in there, and that was your upgrade. I'm going to have to crack a book on that one so I can follow up with you guys and let you know. But right now, I'm going to take it as a win because these parts are brand-ass new. They've never been run. And they don't show any signs of corrosion or delamination or anything like that from setting or water entry. This is money that we do not have to spend, so that's a win in my book. Oh, and by the way, you know all the grungy and funky baking pans and everything that you end up throwing out of the kitchen? Hang on to those things because they're great for doing stuff like this. You can pull everything out of this primary, put them in this old baking tray. You got everything right there laid down to where it's supposed to be. You keep all your parts together. You keep them all in one place. And plus also, you ain't got to worry about anybody robbing them back from you because usually by the time the wife unit throws them out, she don't want to see them anymore. Yeah. Uno momento, por favor. I must grab the Ugga Dugga machine. So anyway, when you're pulling the primary out of these things, you got to pull your primary adjuster shoe loose. I'm like all the way loose, as in you have to remove it because the chain runs on the inside of it, and you got to be able to pull the chain, the compensator sprocket, the clutch shell. All that's got to come out in one shot just because of the way the chain routes, okay? So, yeah, hyper tough. Here we go. Easy. Too easy. Where are we going to put that guy? We're going to put him in our cookie tray. Then we're going to get the big Dugga. Now, on any big twin Harley, unless you've got aftermarket parts in your primary, there's two sockets that you absolutely have to have. You got to have a 1.5 inch socket that fits the compensator nut, and you've got to have a 1 3/16 socket that fits your main shaft nut on the clutch hub. Now keep in mind, your main shaft nut on the clutch hub, that is always going to be a left-hand thread. So it's lefty-tighty. So it'd be righty-loosey, as opposed to righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. But anyway, it's bass-backwards from what you normally go with, okay? Let's get old Bessie here. Oh, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is something that I take notice of. Wow. This is one of the old original style compensators, because you can lift the spring pack up out of this thing. It's not crimped in. Oh, wait a minute. It was crimped in. Key phrase, was. You shouldn't really be able to pull the springs out of a compensator whenever the housing on this thing is pinned in to try to retain them. And I'd have to count how many springs are in this thing. It kind of makes me wonder if somebody tried to stick an extra spring in here to tighten it up once upon a time. The way these look, and as much time as it looks like it's got on it, I think on this one we're going to err on the side of caution, and I think we're going to put a compensator kit in this thing whenever we go back together, just to play it safe. Old style compensator ramp. Yeah, these are some old parts in this thing. There we go. Now she's moving. On panhead, shovelhead, whenever you're pulling the clutch off, here, let me move the camera where you guys can see a little better. Now, panhead, shovelhead, whenever you're taking the primary apart, you do not have to pull that inner clutch hub off of the main shaft to be able to get the clutch shell, the primary chain, and the compensator sprocket out of there. Once you pull the clutch plates out of there and you pull your compensator, the clutch shell will slip off of the hub because it floats independently. And there you have it, right there, kids. There's the clutch shell, primary chain, the shoe. Now, obviously, we're going to take this primary chain and we're going to measure it out against book spec and make sure that we don't have any tight links in there. But this primary chain looks suspiciously new as well. So I'm thinking that somebody beat me to it. I just can't imagine that they didn't replace the compensator at that time, but hey, weirder shit happens, you know? So we can take that. Goes in the cookie tray. All right, let me get you guys a little closer. I want you to see something here. Okay, now like I was saying, this is a standard, well, not standard, but standard type. This is a 5-finger clutch hub. The stock clutch hub only has 3 threaded fingers, so they always kind of lift a little womper jawed and they don't exactly apply evenly. A lot of people back in the day, because these finger studs, they are actually threaded into the hub itself, and a lot of people would take these out and replace them with every other one being a threaded stud like this. Well, the aftermarket got hip to it, and they just started making them this way as an option for people whenever they had to replace this clutch hub, and that's what somebody's done on this. Now, if you notice, it's still got the stock type inner clutch hub bearing, and it's got the little short rollers, and they zigzag back and forth. And these are okay. I mean, they get the job done, but I'm a big fan of the Big Fix bearing kit that BDL sells, and BDL doesn't sell it exclusively. There's other companies that make it, but basically what it is, they give you a different type of retainer here, and they give you 52 full-length needle bearings that are individual needle bearings, and you have to stack them up all the way around this whenever you've got the clutch shell setting up on the hub. And trust me, there's times where it can be an exercise in frustration, but it does a hell of a lot better job of supporting that clutch shell and this bore when the bearings that go here, right in here. It takes the wobble and the rock out of it. If you combine the Big Fix bearing with one of the hub tamer type clutch kits that I'm going to show you guys when we put this back together, it does a lot better job of controlling the infloat of the clutch basket, or clutch shell rather. Here, I'll show you. The whole point of that is to control the infloat, because this clutch shell literally floats on the bearings like that. And every time you pull the clutch in on an old 4-speed, this clutch shell walks out just a little bit. That's what causes a lot of your clutch drag, hard to find neutral, crashing into gear. Occasionally you'll get one that'll be snatchy, jerky whenever you go to take off from a stop. And if you got one that's real bad, whenever you're sitting there with it idling in gear, it'll jerk and hop and snatch and feel like it's trying to run out from underneath you. Not exactly the kind of stuff that leaves you feeling all kind of warm and fuzzy on the inside. So if you got the opportunity to eliminate it as a problem, take it. You're not going to regret it. Remember that 1 3/16 socket I was telling you about we need? Yep, here's where we need it and here's why we need it. Because we got to get this big old honking nut off into the main shaft. That way we can pull our clutch hub off of here. That way we can get the inner primary out of this bike. Remember, guys, these are left-hand threads, so righty-loosey. And that's something that almost never happens, but when it does, it's because somebody did it wrong. Let me show you. Now, you may think this is perfectly fine, but it's not. Couple things here. Number one, this is our aforementioned brand-ass new clutch hub nut that somebody has put in here. Look down inside there. You see that seal? Looks brand new. Well, it most likely is, but there's a slight problem. Whoever put it in there, they put it in there bass-ackwards. It's facing the wrong direction. That's a problem. So we're going to fix it. Yep, you can see down inside there. Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't, but trust me, it's definitely facing the wrong damn direction. But what was odd to me is when I burped this off of here with the old rattle gun, I got screwed. I didn't even get a chance to use my brand new clutch hub puller that I bought for here at the house because it just popped off the taper. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you look, wait a minute. Okay. Yeah. He tried to exit stage right. You got to watch out for that little Woodruff key right there because they like to fall out and they like to hit the floor and then they like to run off and hide from you. Ooh. 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 That right there is why our clutch hub just jumped off of there all on its own. See that deformity there on the Woodruff key? What that's from is whenever they installed this thing, they didn't have the Woodruff key setting in its groove level. They had it cocked up like that slightly. Now this is an exaggerated example, but that's basically what happened because that little battle scar right there, focus, there we go. That little mark right there, that's from it catching the back of the keyway on the clutch hub right there. And actually you can see right there where it dug in just a little bit. That's not enough to damage anything. It's not enough to be any concern, but it is a damn good example of what not to do. Shame on them. Whoever did that, bad. Looks like somebody got a little happy with the red Loctite on the sprocket shaft nut because it's all gooped up into the splines on the sprocket shaft and it's got the sprocket shaft extension stuck on there. But we got a fix for that. So, you got a sprocket shaft extension that's glued on by Loctite. Well, there's only one thing to do. We're going to barbecue the bitch. By the way, you don't need to try to get this thing cherry red, okay? For one, you got your stator and the magnets in your rotor right behind it. You don't want to get them too hot. You do want to get enough heat in that sprocket shaft extension to where it lets the Loctite let go, but you don't have to get the thing to where it glows on its own. You know what? Discretion being the better part of valor and common sense taking the wheel here so we don't break shit, I'm going to wait until we get the inner primary off of this thing before we try to get that thing off there because it's stuck good and I don't want to dick up the inner primary on this thing by prying on it at a weird angle. Now, I'm fully aware that there's some purists out there that are going to cry foul and poo-poo over what you're fixing to see me do to get this starter drive gear off of here. especially the little hot rod Red Ryder up there in Canada. Hey, Angel, I love you, girl, and I know you're going to probably talk some smack to me for this, but hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, okay? You know how it is. So if you do not have the appropriate tool, which I do not, what you can do, keep in mind, these are reverse threads, just like your main shaft. Get some channel locks or some vice grips, one of the two. Just make sure that they're in decent shape and the jaws are fairly sharp. Do not grab this around this bearing surface that goes into the support bearing on the primary cover. But you can grab it around the outside of the big flange that's inboard towards the starter gear. Get a hold of that guy, full-blown Patrick Star protocol here. Grasp it firmly. And then, let's take the sucker off. If we can grab it enough, but it don't look like I can. So what's the guy going to do? Well, I'll tell you, we're going to get some bigger vice grips. Okay, bigger vice grips were not an option. I just, yeah, baby. I mean, let's be real here. Me and the wife unit have had 2 offspring in our time together on this little mud ball called Earth. And let's just say that when you have young offspring, they have really bad timing. So sometimes you got to do what you got to do, boys. Put that in our tray. We're going to leave that there for the time being. Then we just got to pull our primary bolts and nuts. Let me show you guys something on this real quick. Now, I know a lot of you guys have probably heard the term wet and dry primary, and you probably remember me making mention that we're going to seal the primary on this bike. Let me explain. On shovel heads, you don't typically fill the primary chain case with oil. The motor does that for you. How? Well, here I'll show you. This fitting right here receives oil from the oil pump over on the side of the motor. And it doesn't move a whole lot of oil, but it is pumping oil in here. And what it does is that is there specifically to lube the primary chain as it travels around and around and around into infinitum. Now, where's the oil go once it goes into the primary? Glad you asked. Here, I'll show you. That oil collects down here, and if you notice here in the casting, it's got this little valley right here. Pay no mind to this hole. That threaded hole is your drain plug, okay? That's not where the oil goes. This valley right here meets up with a hole that is in the outer primary cover, and then it comes over and it lines up with this hole. This hole is a scavenge hole, and what that does, this hole is tied with a piece of hose to the scavenge side of the oil pump, and this is how it returns the oil out of the primary back to the oil tank up here where your motor oil is stored. Now, it was thought to be a convenient all-in-one system, and, you know, hey, convenience is great, right? Well, not so much in this case. The problem you have is it didn't lubricate the clutch that great, and also it didn't do that great of a job of lubing that inner primary bearing back here. The biggest issue, though, all the cast-off material from your clutch and the primary chain and your primary chain adjuster, things like that, also the compensator, its spring pack, the 3 cam lobes on it, that all falls in the bottom of the primary case. Well, where does it go from there? It goes right there into that scavenge hole, and it gets returned back there into the oil tank. Now, granted, there is a filter here in the blam, top of the oil tank on a shovel head, underneath this cover, and it's a simple system. Return oil gets pumped in through this hose. It goes in the top. That cap has a gasket on there, and it seals it, and it forces it down through this filter. Well, let you know a little secret, guys. The old drop-in filters, while convenient, they wasn't exactly what you would call efficient, and this one is no different. There is a ton of gray sludge in the bottom of this oil tank, and what that is from is cast off from the clutch, the primary chain, the compensator, any squirrels that may have managed to get their way in here and get run through the proverbial wood chipper, whatever the case may be. Bottom line is, what we're going to do, we're going to remove this oiler, and we are going to remove this scavenge line. We're going to block those off, and we're going to put a different bearing here with the appropriate seal on the back side of the main shaft bearing, and we are going to seal this primary. That way it has its own self-contained divorced oil supply that you would change like you would on a late model bike, but also that keeps us from cross-contaminating our engine oil here. That's the benefit, because you don't have all the crap sitting in the bottom of the oil bag. And also, since it's a sealed system, you're going to have a little bit more oil in here. It does a hell of a lot better job of lubricating the clutch and also the main shaft bearing. Win-win. Do it. You will thank yourself. Acorn nuts. Gotta love them. Yeah. That's sarcasm in case y'all didn't pick it up. Don't get me wrong. They look cool. They look cool on a lot of things. Some not so much, some more than others. But I think we can all agree they're a pain in the dick whenever you got a wrench on something that's got them everywhere. Oh, and by the way, Shade Tree, if you're watching this, looky here, Bubba. Safety wire. I know it's your new favorite thing, man. Pokey fingers and all. But yes, this is what they did, and this is what they used on these back in the day before they come up with those nifty little fold-over bendy lock tabs. I don't have a pair of safety wire pliers handy right here, right now, but I'll make sure I put you guys a link in the description down in this video where you can pick up a damn nice set of them for some low cash, okay? They're just like the ones I use at work, and they work awesome. We can take these last two bolts out of our inner primary, and we're mostly all the way there to being able to pull it out. Not quite yet, though. Oh, would you look at that? Somebody put an extra bolt in this thing that ain't supposed to be there. Glad I didn't just go gung-ho and start prying on that thing. And of course it's an acorn nut, because why wouldn't it be? What? 2? Really? Oh, for shame. For shame. Somebody left the spacer out of the starter solenoid. And to make it worse, they stacked up a bunch of flat washers in it. Ain't supposed to be that way. The spacer is there, but they had a bunch of damn flat washers in there on top of it. Why in the hell did they feel the need to space that solenoid out so far? I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. I want you guys to see this, because this is a no-no to the nth degree. This little flat bar here, that's the normal spacer that goes between the mounting gears and the primary cover when you install your starter solenoid. But look at what they did. They've got 2 flat washers stacked on top of that. And that's spacing that starter solenoid out that much further. That's no bueno, man. That's going to let your starter gear go too deep into the ring gear on the clutch shell, and it's going to hang up all day long. If you guys have ever seen a shovel head where the starter hangs in, you know what's coming. You got to be able to get that battery cable off quick, or else you might as well say see you to your battery, because it'll either crank it till it's dead, or it'll crank it until it melts the negative post off the battery, one of the two. There. We chose the nuclear option. We pulled shaft gear and all out. We'll deal with that pesky little bastard here in a little bit when we get the primary off and we get it on the bench. All right, let me go over on the other side and take some starter bolts out of this thing, and then we'll get our primary off. Okay, now that we have this absolute unit of a starter off and out of our way, it'll be a hell of a lot easier getting our primary off of there. Now, keep in mind, guys, we're going to be replacing this with one of the little all-balls permanent magnet gear reduction starters. They're awesome. They're only about 2/3 as long as this thing is. They're a lot lighter, and also, more importantly, they put out about 1.5 times the oomph that this big bastard does. 3 and 4, there's our 4 lock nuts. those flat washers for the 2 forward inner primary bolts, they're captive. So now we got these stupid oiler hoses that we got to get out of our way. And since we're sealing this primary, I ain't gonna worry about being pretty about it. Yeah. There's 1, 2, and 3. I said and 3. There. Ugh. There you go. Now, this fitting right here, this is for the primary vent. This is not an oiler line, this is a vent line. But it still has to be plugged up whenever you seal the primary. Got a nice shiny new inner primary seal here. That ain't been there long, and it sure ain't got no street miles on it. But we're going to replace this with an updated style seal. It's not the metal clad single lip seal. It's a rubber clad dual lip seal. It does a hell of a lot better job of sealing that inner primary bearing. Now check this out. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up very good, but I want you guys to try to look close here. See all that goop and gack inside the rolling elements on that inner primary bearing? That is why we're sealing this inner primary, because that is clutch media. That's clutch material. No bueno. Not good. Well, I do declare, we got a brand-ass new front sprocket on this thing. Yeah, somebody's been here before. Now keep in mind, guys, it's kind of like our pal Shade Tree always says. This is not a punch. This is not a chisel. This is an ugly screwdriver. And we're going to use it in a way that you shouldn't really use a screwdriver. But in my defense, it's an ugly screwdriver, but my ugly screwdriver is prettier than Josh's ugly screwdriver. So there. So we're just going to unfold these little fold-over tabs on the front sprocket. That way we can set him free. And realistically, you only got to fold one of these things over. Whoever put this thing in here, they were swinging for the fences because they did all 3, man. Okay. Ugly screwdriver operation complete. Now, this is another one of those Harley special tools that you really probably should have. This is a main shaft nut wrench, or pulley nut wrench, or sprocket shaft nut wrench, whatever you want to call it. It's a big damn deep well socket, and you got to have it for getting the sprocket nut, pulley nut, whatever you're working with. You got to have it for getting that off of there. And they give you this little thread protector hoodookie that you screw onto the main shaft to keep from beating the threads up on it. But also, its actual purpose is to help align that socket and keep it straight. Now, something I like to do whenever they've got fold-over tabs on them like this, once you get your socket up there, before you go pounding on it with an impact, give it a couple love taps with a hammer. That way you can flatten those bend-over tabs totally out of the way. That way you get the most engagement on the nut that you can, because that nut's kind of thin. Now, again, guys, this is a righty-loosey situation, okay? That means it's backwards thread, y'all. And that didn't put up much of a fight at all. But most things don't whenever you beat on them with old Bessie here. Now, for you guys at home that may be wondering, Bessie here, this is a Ingersoll 2131 composite body impact gun. Now, way back in the day when it used to have all the stickers on the side, it said Craftsman. There's a reason for that. These were sold through Sears under the Craftsman brand name as a contract piece that was made for them by Ingersoll Rand. That's why it's got the chrome nose cone on it instead of the traditional black like you see from the Ingersoll Rand impact that's still made and available to this day. If you see one of these things in a pawn shop, don't snooze on it, man. They bring the mail, they bring the hate, and they get the job done. And the thing is, you can usually pick them up for peanuts. I've had this thing for 25 years now, give or take, probably a little bit longer than that. But I've never rebuilt it. I've never had to do anything to it other than put a couple of retainer rings on the nose of it. And I have used the crap out of it. Trust me. Ingersoll stuff, whenever it comes to air tools, Don't snooze on that, man. It's good shit. Now, somebody did a no-no here. Well, it's not really a no-no. This is more personal preference, but it's good practice to do. Hang on, guys. We're going for a field trip. Whee! If you notice here, where I pulled this big honking sprocket nut and bend over tab off of the sprocket here, you can see the splines. When you're putting one of these sprockets on there, it's a good practice to, before you slip the sprocket on, put a little bit of black silicone or gray silicone in the valley of the spline on this. That way, whenever you put the sprocket up there, it makes that silicone kind of ooze out under the spline. And also, you might want to give it just a tiny little squirt on this side before you put your fold over tab in place. The reason why is 4-speeds love to ooze oil out from around the spline. Because it's such a coarse spline, it's easy for it to do. It's one of those little pesky, dribble type oil leaks that people seem to be fighting all the time on shovels and early Evos and pans and stuff like that. Now, the thing is, you're going to have to work long and hard to make a shovel head where it absolutely does not put down any oil. But if you can mitigate all the small common areas while you're doing other service work, like if you're having to put chain and sprockets on, or if you got to replace that main shaft seal, or whatever the case may be, take an extra 2 minutes, do it. It's a quality of life thing, guys. Now, here is one area that people will seem to have a lot of problems with on shovel head. See this register lip here on the left-hand crankcase? Yeah, that little thin bastard right there. Well, that's where that little thin-ass O-ring lays up in there, and that is all that seals the inner primary to the engine case. Now, I've seen people bury these things up in silicone, and yeah, it's not a terrible idea to put a reasonable thin smear of silicone on there before you put the O-ring in place. But you ain't got to use half the tube, okay, guys? Now, one thing that is very common on shovels, and it's more common as these bikes age and accrue age. Focus. There we go. Getting back to this register lip. That's always been a problem spot on shovel head because it's so damn thin. Now, where that becomes a problem, this register lip here, that is what indexes and aligns the inner primary to the left-hand side of the motor. This is also where all the load from the chain in the primary drive, as it's pulling, trying to transmit power to the transmission, all of that load is taken by this register lip here on the left-hand case. And it's extremely common to see shovel heads have this register lip cracked or broken out here from about, roughly, say 1 o'clock down to about 5 o'clock, because what happens, people will not have the transmission aligned on the tranny plate, or worse, the inner primary bolts will be loose, and, Johnny Speed Racer has been doing some stoplight to stoplight drag racing, been doing a lot of clutch dumps, a lot of burnouts at bike nights, whatever the case may be. That register lip right there, that's what takes all the abuse, and that's what takes the driveline load. Because think about it. When you pull the trigger good and hard, the torque that the motor is making is trying to pull this shaft on the transmission closer to the crankshaft. So all your load gets distributed on this area here. Now, there are fixes out there if you've got a register lip that is cracked. I know that Motor Shop through Ted's V-Twin offers a repair service where you send them your case half and they machine this out, and then they machine it oversized, and they press in a stainless steel ring that reestablishes that register lip. And that's all well and good. But it's a damn expensive process because you have to have the motor completely disassembled. You have to send them a naked case half for them to do that. So the aftermarket has got a couple of options for that. One of them being a fix-it gasket that James Gasket, Cometic, a couple of others make. And what it does, it's a formed sheet metal gasket that follows the contour of the bolt castings on this, and it has a molded silicone bead to where it seals on this flat surface. Even if you've got chunks of that register lip broken out, it'll still seal. Now, in my opinion, it's not ideal, the way I fix these, I use one of those fix-it gaskets if I have one where this is broken out. But also what I do is I will make studs that are stepped, that thread into the case here, 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 and also in the front where somebody has already studded this one for the acorn nuts. But I machine those studs to where they have a step in them and they have a smooth shank in the middle, and then I ream the hole in the inner primary cover to where it's basically 5/1000ths or so of an inch bigger than the diameter of that stud. That way the stud acts like a centering dowel, and the stud is what's taking the load on the left-hand case half and not this register lip. The studs spread the load out from 4 points, and it does a lot better job of not only maintaining alignment, but also it does a lot better job of maintaining the tightness of the inner primary, because you got to think, they put that lock wire in there for a reason. The reason is this right here. Whenever you pull the trigger on it real good and hard, it's always flexing right through here. They will move a little bit, and eventually, if you don't have the bolts locked in place, guess what? They're going to loosen up. The inner primary cover is going to shift forward, and bam, that's going to break right there. Now, in the past, I've had people ask me if studding it is the only option. No, not entirely. What you can do is you can fabricate an oversized bolt, and you can turn it on a lathe to where you still have the diameter of the shank is larger than the actual working diameter of the threads. And that's fine. That also works in cases where the threads in that case half may be boogered up, or if it's beaten up badly enough, that hole may be slightly ovaled and egged out. If that's the case, put a time sert or a helicoil in there and fix the hole, then put the stud in there, and that way it still keeps everything in alignment. Little thin pissant O-ring. Blah! Come on, Mr. Sprocket Shaft Extension. I need you off. Man, thing does not want to come off there. Obviously, we're going to do the same shit that we were doing and hope that we have a different result. Wait a minute. That's not a good diagnosis. Well, we've definitely moved it because the rotor is wobbling a little bit now. It's just being stubborn because I just drove it back up and I totally forfeited all ground I'd gained. I gotta admit, that's got me nervous. Yeah, I'm not digging that. Whew, yeah, that's plenty warm enough. If it was just Loctite, that would have let go by now. Think we're going to need to play it safe on that one, boys and girls. We're going to have to get a puller for that thing. Yeah. I don't want to dick that rotor up, and I don't know what kind of shape that stator may be in. For all I know, somebody may have replaced this stator here recently. Now, the thing is, just because it's old doesn't mean it's bad. And if it ohms out and it checks out, then, hey, might as well use it. Because the thing is, you really don't have any way of predicting how much life you have left in the stator or other components of the charging system, because they're going to work right up until the point where they don't. And that's a sad truth, but I have seen bikes with the original stator and voltage regulator on them that were still running up and down the road 20 odd years later. Then again, I've seen brand new stators that come out of the box from a well-known name brand reputable vendor, and they either were dead out of the box, like what Shade Tree recently ran into on Sugar Tree Jay's shovel that he's got up there, or they made it a day or two out of the shop and then they pooped themselves. So it's kind of luck of the draw. All you can do is just do your due diligence, test what you got. If it tests within spec, hey, I'd say run it, as long as your wiring and as long as your plugs and connectors look okay. Because chances are, if you got a unit that's like this that may be 20, 30, however many years old, there's a fair bet that it may be built better back then than a brand new one that you get out of the box nowadays is. It's kind of a crapshoot. And I'm sorry, I got to backtrack just a little bit here, but I'm kind of upset because I bought this stupid clutch hub puller so I could get this hub off here, and I ended up not having to use it. So we're going to fake it. That way you guys see how it's supposed to work. Now, this is a very simple apparatus, okay? If you notice that plate, it's got a shit ton. That's an actual unit of measure, by the way. It has a shit ton of holes drilled in seemingly random patterns, but they're actually not that random because this type of puller works for 3-finger, 5-finger, and it also works for early Evo clutch hubs that have the 4 bolts, the little thin ones that like to break all the time. So be careful if you've got one. But how this guy works, it's real simple. We're going to pretend here, okay? Just envision it with me. Say this is still on the bike. Well, you take your plate that has more holes than your average block of bougie Publix Swiss cheese, and you put it on there until you find a pattern of holes that line up, kind of like there. Put it on there. Now, make sure you take your clutch push rod out before you do this, but you put the plate on there, take your nuts that hold your clutch adjuster down, and you turn them around backwards where the little locking notches are facing away from this plate, and then you take your bolt and you thread it in until it makes contact with the end of the main shaft. Then you put a little bit of pressure on it with a wrench. I strongly advise that you not, I repeat, not just beat the crap out of this thing with an impact gun, okay? The reason why is because the way the end of the shaft on this particular puller is made, if you are really hunkering down on that thing with an impact gun, there's a very good possibility that you can actually cause some damage to the end of the input shaft. It'll actually mushroom it out a little bit. So your better option is take this, put it in, tighten it very snug while you're holding the whole fixture here. Take you a bar and slide through the fingers on it, just something to hold it to where you can tighten it down and put some torque on this. Then, after you've run this bolt in and you've torqued it, take a brass hammer and pop it. Because what will happen, that shock that is transmitted through the bolt while it's under tension, it's going to try to pop that taper loose from the end of that main shaft. Now, you may have to get kind of energetic with it with your brass hammer, okay? Especially if yours is kind of a lightweight like this one. But if you do that, usually 1 or 2 good smacks is all it takes, and it'll pop off of there. And when I say pop off, I mean pop off, okay? So keep your hand on it because sometimes they can be fairly energetic whenever they let go. Thus concludes the sermon on how to imaginarily use my tool that I didn't get to use. Don't worry, guys. I'll have you a link down in the description for this and all the other stuff that I showed here in this video. That way you guys can get what you need without having to break the bank to do it. Okay, well, except for pulling that sprocket shaft extension off of there and pulling the rotor off of the stator, that's pretty much everything I wanted to get done on this thing tonight. I wanted to open up the primary, see what the clutch looked like, see what the clutch hub looked like. That stuff looks beautiful. Most of those parts are new, so that's great. We're money ahead because they've already been replaced and we don't have to worry about replacing them. So we can spend those funds elsewhere. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. It's getting on about 2:30 in the morning at this point, and I'm a little fatigued because it's been a hell of a day, y'all. I mean, yeah, I wasn't planning on having to go full scorched earth in my kitchen earlier today. But that's a me problem and not a you problem, all right? Because we're going to be here in the temple. We're going to be here every Monday night. We're going to be working on the old shovel head here. And we're going to build this customer one kick-ass motorcycle that him and his whole family can be proud of. This motorcycle has special meaning to him and his family because, like I said previously, this bike belonged to a family member. I've got a meeting with my customer to where we can finalize a couple of details on this bike here Tuesday, and then we're going to order some parts for this thing, and in the meantime, I'm going to get it blown the rest of the way down to a bare frame to where we can do all the stuff that we got to do. And, yeah, you're going to see a hell of a lot less motorcycle here on the next episode of this, all right? I can tell you that right now. If you like what we do here, and if, you want to see more, or you want to see some of the stuff that doesn't make it to YouTube, or some of just the everyday weird that I tend to run into throughout my normal day-to-day at the Ride Factory, go down here in the description down below. Click on that little Patreon link. Now, this isn't a money grab. I'm not trying to euchre you guys out of cash or shake you down for anything or pull a Sally Struthers on you. If you guys are old enough to know that joke, yeah, we can be friends. But Patreon is where we have the gateway to the Joe the Mountain Jedi Discord, if you will. That's where you find the link to be able to join the JTMJ Discord. And that's where we're building our brain trust, okay? We got a lot of members over there. They're sharp as shit, okay? There's a lot of times they call me out or they help me out, one of the two. And I rightly deserve the call outs and I rightly appreciate the help. It's a two-way street, guys. I try to help you guys as much as I can. Occasionally, I got to lean on y'all to help me a little bit, okay? Now, keep in mind, guys, we always have free membership options here on the Joe the Mountain Jedi Patreon page. However, if you elect to contribute to the goal here towards keeping old motorcycles out of the scrapyard, getting them back out on the road, and also helping share some knowledge with people on how to keep some old bikes out on the road where they belong instead of rotting away in the back of Uncle Fester's barn and not go broke in the process, and also being able to be more independent and work on your stuff more on your own rather than being at the mercy of a dealership or some other shop that you may or may not have a very good relationship with. So come over, check us out. If you like what you see, let me know. You know, we got some pretty cool people that hang out with us, and it's nice to be able to share knowledge with people that are on a similar wavelength, if you will. Anyway, y'all, it's late or early. As of recording this, was Mother's Day because it's technically Monday morning now. But I want to put a big shout out to the mom unit out there. I know I called and talked to you earlier tonight, Mama. I love you. I wish I could have come by. I wasn't expecting to open Pandora's box with the kitchen, and boy, did I open Pandora's box. I hope you had a good one, Mom. And what you told me about what you saw earlier tonight, like I said, it was just stopping in to check on you. That's all. That's going to about do it for this one. We're going to get some more work done on the shovel here the coming week. We're going to get some more work done on the kitchen here in the coming week. Eventually, we're going to find a balance point. I'm not sure when that's going to be, but whenever I know, you'll know. These are the convenient lies that we tell ourselves here, y'all. Just remember, I love you. I'll catch you on the flip side.
Force will be with you, always.